And something that we mentioned a lot, of course, yesterday already, especially you, Nekra, you just kept on stressing the importance of winning that winners match, because that sets you in the prime position of moving into the main event, and that means you're dodging next week's elimination match, which will be played on a new patch. So you got to lean back and just enjoy the show and see everyone else scramble and figure it out, and you can just take your time with it, copy other people's homework. That is a huge advantage.
It really is. I don't think any team is super jazzed about having to adjust to a new patch in the very middle of the group stages, but that is something that a lot of teams are going to have to figure out because only so many teams are going to avoid it. And
it's not even that, right? Because obviously, like, your placement in the main event, we just looked at how the circuit points and sort of prize breakdown is. Like, you want a favorable seeding going into the start of that main event, because winning that first round gives you a huge number of extra circuit points for your team, and that's obviously something that could be the difference between you making Davos or not, and even just setting yourself up for sort of later on in the year. So that is something that both these teams are going to have in the front of their mind. I'm sure the coaching staff would love to at least be able to observe the rest of the teams flounder around on a new patch while formulating their particular plan. You saw the votes at home, Rose. It's a pretty closely predicted match here. FMCL is a less known quantity, but we saw just how nasty Seeker was on that LFO team. Seeker, you know, there was a point, I think, where Seeker was, going to be a part of their matey roster, and then that didn't happen, and then they formed another team, and then they split up. So FMCL hoping that this is the solution now, as they picked up a few players that have come off some of those top teams. So having Renko and Lep here is going to make you feel pretty good, but they're going up against fellow Overwatch League veterans in Al and Rack Attack here, so it's by no means a walkover.
No, I think you hit something really important, though, is that this open ecosystem, it's quite nice that with the chaos that can ensue with roster mania, as we have all come to know and love from the Overwatch League, in between in the contenders scene, I feel like it gets even crazier. So we're going to see a little bit more of that, see what FMCL can really make of being able to pick up those pieces. As these gates open, we can see Ariel really relying on this Ramatra pick that was so influential in their Stage 1, but how is that going to actually fare up against the Sigma composition coming up from Infected, Sigma being one of Infected's best heroes?
Right now, I mean, plenty of trading, right? Just poking down. Seeker can charge off of that Sigma shield and hopefully send a railgun another direction to put pressure on a player for Zero to follow up on that damage. And yeah, Ariel really just playing these corners as much as they possibly can. That shield gives them some room to move up, and Nemesis form is definitely threatening to Sigma if he can close the gap.
Taking a look at these railgun charges, because it could just take a stray shot that's going to open this up for any team. FMCL may have been able to force the SOG team to go try to move to the point, but they're getting pushed back now as FMCL is walking on them.
Yeah, I love the shield they're thrown out by Ariel. It actually blocks the accretion that Infected is using to try and slow the advance of the Ramatra. But all that pressure, all that push, and FMCL couldn't convert that into a point flip whatsoever. Now they get forced back, and in the longer fight, they're going to lose out to the poke cop. PGE is able to find Seeker. That is a massive boon for your team. And now Scissors realizes they have an opportunity to pressure down the main tank. Ariel feeling it a little bit now, but they've already built an amp matrix here. SOG in a position to keep that pressure going.
Sigma is just so good when you're running this poke style of comp because of that movable shield. Look at how many angles that Infected's able to lock down with that shield, whether it's going to be on this high platform or even just being able to provide a bit more coverage there for PGE closer towards the back. FMCL's very split, though.
These students of the game anticipating a Kitsune rush, which is definitely coming through soon. Nice annihilation, though. That's going to be a problem. Here's the sound barrier and Kitsune rush all deployed. Everything almost from FMCL drawn out in that last fight. Three massive ultimates that on their own could win fights. They really dig deep to flip this point back.
Now that they've wrestled back control, though, that was so expensive. So you're really looking at Seeker being able to get a pop-off with this overclock, or Zera even being able to try to find a kill with that pulse bomb, just to hold on to the point. On the flip side of things, SOG, that was pretty economical, no? Amplification matrix for 3 more ultimates on FMCL's side. So SOG are definitely coming back into this with the ultimate advantage.
FMCL are actually allowed to, or rather allow SOG to walk back in and get some space, and PGE's been able to convert that unit kill again on Seeker. Dominating in the Sojourn mirror so far. So students of the game can reflip this point very, very quickly. And now it's going to be a problem. Ariel has no room, and look how far away the rest of their team are. Suzu, I saw that. That was well placed. Cal having to use the Immortality Field to stop the pulse bomb in by Zera. overclock potential here for Seeker, but Zera's going to work right now. As soon to the game with the poke comp, they put themselves in brawl range against this FMCL setup. But now students of the game, having lost the point, go for the sound barrier and turn it into not a whole lot. They have to switch off this poke now as they're getting space denied from them.
It's always going to be a bit of a back and forth here until we see Seeker start to open things up, but PGE is going to be the one that hits the overclock to see if it can be enough to turn this around for students of the game.
I mean, it looks like it. At the moment, Aerial can't really get over towards the point at all, and Infected is very hard to shift. Renko taken down by a wayward Javelin. It's a massive advantage here for students of the game, and so far PGE completely unbothered by everybody, throwing themselves at the Sojourn, try and force him off the point. Eventually, he concedes, but that's only so Infected can step up and create that space once more. The Ramatra is felled again. The students of the game have got to be feeling good now. A long fight that gets them back in control.
And they also get to play with these angles too, so Cal can play really far back, farm up this amplification matrix, and PGE is there to be able to take advantage of that as well. FMCL are going to have to walk into this, and they don't have that sound barrier yet to help give them that extra sustain to deal with this window.
Zera needs to touch. They do. Overtime now secured. Scissors dropping to the low level, and all of FMCL grouping up. They know the Tracer is here. Scissors might be able to recall to the high ground. No, they actually had just dropped down, but that's another huge headshot from PGE to find a Tracer, no less. Infected knows there's some action happening on the point, but they were trying to deal with Lep at the time. Now they make the way over. They can afford to let the point flip here, as it'll be over once they're in control, and they disengage away from that Kitsune rush.
Waiting for that Terra Surge to come online as Infected now has that. You can go in with the Fortify and just try to hit some of these squishies in the back line of FMCL.
They're going to make a play at some point here, though. Aerial's taking space and has the Annihilation available. All of SOG try and fold away from this, but there's only so far you can run from there. Oh, my goodness, rack attack. That is perfect. The ulting Ramatra knocked off the map. SOG still need to take the point here, but FMCL being tankless now means they can barely do anything about it. Seeker's trying to force Infected back, trying to take shots at Cal from behind. The Orisa does take Infected low. Now the contest is underway, though. You see PGE with their overclock of their own, great pulse bomb and aerial in power block, they still take a ton of damage. Once again, they are tankless. Now it's up to Left to try and stall things out. They get booped upward there by Rack Attack, and a sound barrier after the fact here for students of the game should seal the deal. A competitive back and forth round, but after the Sigma switch to Orisa, Infected looked much more comfortable.
That was a really back and forth round. I'm excited if this is going to be a bit of a predeterminer for what's ahead of us in this series. As students of the game, FMCL, I think both of these teams are easily considered some of the top 8 in North America, but it's really now about just trying to prove themselves on this bigger stage to get into that main event for stage 2. I wonder, though, if Aerial's going to have to switch off of this Ramatra. I think it worked out when you were expecting to see the Sigma on the other side if you're able to walk in front of that shield, but when it comes down to the little micro differences in between the way that those two compositions play, I thought that SOG just had a big upper hand when having that Sigma shield available versus having to play around those pillars.
I'm surprised that FMCL didn't try harder to take the space away from the Sigma setup. Like, after they won a fight, they didn't push up and sort of deny entry to the Sigma. Eventually, though, I think it was just a bit hard for Infected to get away with the Ramatra there and sort of switched off to an even better brawl option. Scissors there at the top of your screen already make their way into the back line. They've got to respect Seeker, though, who's a ridiculous hit scan in their own right, but PGE has outshone him for the entirety of this map so far.
Ooh, well, Aerial's getting bullied.
Now falls back by just a sheer weight of cooldowns there by the looks of things as Infected just unloads. PGE has a good little vantage point here, but now being accosted by Lep. We'll need to respect this to at least give some line of sight to his supports, and they do. Infected falling though over on the point there as PGE spends so much time trying to swat at Lep. They can't really get involved in the damage trades that are happening on the point. That's a really big missed opportunity here for students of the game, and FMCL can set up.
FMCL set off, and this Orisa is already looking a bit better from Aerial. Has to play around those disruptor shots. As we saw at the very beginning of this stage, PGE did pop one of those down, and it forced Aerial to have to back away to make sure it wasn't going to be taking too much damage. But now that they actually have control of this point, FMCL can get a nice setup here. Zera has already done enough damage to get this pulse bomb online, and, you know, high noon, baby, we get a chance to see something come of that. But I'm really looking at this Kitsune rush from Renko on FMCL to start opening up this fight.
Zera harassing right now. Cal, though, not inclined to use that swift step at this time. That's beautiful. Nice little one clip there by Scissors. Assisting, of course, in the takedown on the Cassidy. Seeker having the space taken away from him there does not benefit the gunslinger. Flip of the sound barrier here. No reason to make use of that now as students of the game get the point back. But crucially, late as though it is, they don't have to spend ultimates to get it. It's just good coordination.
Yeah, they don't have to use anything, and I don't think that FMCL are too unhappy with having to expend the pulse bomb there to no avail either. It's going to be a pretty explosive fight heading into this next one. Look at the layered Kitsune rushes, look at the overclock from PGE. I think there's a bit more firepower in SOG's tank, but FMCL have options to try to get around that, most notably Lep's sound barrier.
Seeker had to drop to the low ground here to try and get a flanking angle, but he walks straight into the Orisa. Able to roll away here. Deadeye, oh goodness, see you later. Deadeye interrupted, infected, sent him over the edge. Still, no room for this Cassidy to find value. Aerial now pushing up onto the point of rack attack, has nowhere to go. Beautiful connection there with that javelin. A PGE also will be slammed up against the wall. Now we have an awkward situation for students of the game. They get schooled in that fight as FMCL happy to trade ultimates to get back in control now.
Something about playing towards the edge of the map that has always been a bad look for FMCL. Just be careful of rack attack, I guess is all I can say.
So much displacement. That time it was infected as well. Like, they have two virtual boops, right? He had, like, no sidelines on the high ground because they were denied from him by the entirety of students of the game. They just weren't playing into that game plan. So being forced to, like, drop and then flank and then get spotted out instantly and speed boosted onto. That's not ideal. There's PGE again. A little bit of a gap forming, I'm not going to lie. Seeker brought down by a headshot there. Zero hoping to equalize by maybe focusing the Cassidy down, and that is a beautiful pulse bomb. Now we're even. Pressure here being applied to Cal. Zero, though, have to recall. It's taking too much incidental damage now. You see Seeker trundling back towards the fight, but it's going to be too late to intervene in this engagement.
It's too late, but yeah, I think at FMCL, they're walking away with 98% of this point, and all they need to do is build up to a Kitsune rush here, or even just imagine if they have this sound barrier before rack attack does. Then they've got the barrier advantage, they have more sustain. Aerial's going to have this Terror Surge coming online as well. So realistically, maybe looking at last fight between these two teams, but FMCL are packing quite a bit of punch.
Aerial just takes the mag grenade for the rest of the team. Nothing more than very mild poke is what that amounts to at that point. Terror Surge up here for both Orisas. This is about to get a little bit hectic. Here comes Kitsune Rush, immediately going to be an Ant Matrix deployed by Cal. All the students of the game play from behind it. They still maintain point control. Eventually they'll have to stall it. And it's going to be Infected's job to step up here. Ariel, though, out of line of sight of most of this damage, is able just to shrug it off. Terror Surge comes out. It's just as well rack at the sound barrier. Eventually, Infected is going to pop that. And under that immortality field, going to be able to stay alive to push onto the point once more. Javelin spin buys the space. Can you get the frag, though? Looks like Seeker was able to avoid the questing spears of the Orisa for the time being. Nice stick, though. PGE going to have to settle for a trade there against Zera. And we are now seeing students of the game sat here on the point. Rack attack desperately trying to tend to Infected's wounds, but that Orisa is very, very low. Another boop here, though, would make it pretty hard for Ariel to close. Seismic Slam. We see Infected get out for now. So it's giving point control over to students of the game, and that's a beautiful pulse. Another great tracer play of many in this round. With the Doom out of the picture, that's huge.
It's a really big deal because now you don't have the same type of combinations you would have had with the Doomfist. Can't go in to get the movement either, and the Sombra is going to be a huge problem.
PGE, okay, plenty of damage there in Zera's direction. PGE credited with the killing blow, but that was a team effort for sure. Virus there deployed on Ariel, ticking down as they've had their abilities locked out. The Sombra switch, a touch of genius, giving students of the game the map win.
That was a really nice switch to see there. I think just in the heat of the moment, it can be a little bit difficult to pinpoint exactly maybe that rapid switch you might want to make in order to ensure the victory. But that Sombra was so nice. Not only did that Doomfist get completely shut down, but still a lot of damage output for a Sombra. And even though she did get a bit reworked and maybe she did get a little bit down-tuned, she's still hitting really hard.
Yeah, I mean, if you hit the skill shot, that sort of damage over time really, can add to the rest of your kit. But the hack on a Doomfist is one of the most devastating things to experience. Also, like a Pulse Bomb, right? If you can hit Doomfist with, single instances of burst damage, it's really hard for him to hang around in those fights. I was really impressed from both Zero and Scissors. We saw, great Tracer moments here. We're going to be blessed with some of the highlights right now. Seeker struggling actually to keep up with PGE over the course of the map. And I think that, that first round gave us some interesting sort of tank dichotomy. Eventually Infected making that switch, and it pays off.
Orisa was so nice, and once we saw Ariel also switch over to the Orisa, I think that's where we also got a chance to see a little bit more into the future of what the rest of the series is going to provide. Both Ariel and Infected have a pretty good tank pool. I think Infected a bit more Orisa leaning than some of the other players in this region, but Ariel still, I think, has the opportunity to try to do a bit more response when it comes down to what Infected is going to be playing. But it seems to be mostly Orisa and an A. I don't expect us to see too much more than this.
So many of these moments, right? Rack Attack with that massive, massive boop on the Ramatra there, and Infected, of course, getting rid of Seeker. Look at PG is hitting all of those skill shots there, but coming out with like a bunch of random kills. This one here, just fair enough. Just take credit for that one. I'm fine with it. And yet, despite how back and forth so much of the gameplay was here, students of the game with a very big lead, especially in terms of that sort of KD. For a lot of fights that went fairly close and went fairly back and forth. One thing that we observed, I think, was just Seeker struggling to find good angles. And that one fight where he drops off the right side high ground, rolls away, and all of a sudden Orisa, he's just, being accosted by this equine assailant and gets caught immediately by that javelin spin. That definitely speaks to the struggles of when you do have, enemy tanks or just teams that are really good at denying you good sight lines and not giving you room to land those consecutive shots.
I think what that KD also speaks to is just how much space we were seeing these teams being willing to give up. You're not necessarily backing away because you fully lost the team fight. Maybe you've lost one or two members, and so the team just goes, I'm going to back away. I'm not going to let you get any more ultimate charge out of this engagement. But we are going to see a sub, and FMCL is known to do this. They do have a very deep DPS pool and very talented DPS when it comes to this lineup. So Maimon is going to be stepping into the roster in favor of Seeker. And so I kind of wonder if we get a chance to maybe see some Echo in this next map.
Yeah, that's like a classic pick for Maimon. Always seen the Genji Tracer at times, obviously representing Great Britain in the World Cup. See our DPS player from Wales. Obviously subbing in for Seeker. It definitely means that FMC are looking to maybe trend away from just relying maybe on that hit scan, that sojourn to a too great a degree. Seeker has shown us some of the most disgusting individual performances, I think, of any player, during the Overwatch League last year. This match, though, so far, he's not been able to shine. He's not been able to express that skill to the same degree. So he'll have a chance maybe to ruminate on that from the bench. And we set our sights forward towards Paraiso.
Ooh, so I definitely could see us getting some Echo here, and that makes me so excited because Maimon really did have so many pop-up performances on that hero, whether it was in the World Cup or even just the time that I've been able to see them play in the NA contender scene. And Echo right now is so interesting because we've seen in the past stage this kind of unique dynamic of what is it that you're actually going to duplicate with an ultimate like that? Are you going to duplicate a tank? Before it was kind of like, well, now there's 3 Mauga on the field, and what are you going to do about it? But are you going to duplicate a support? Because we've also seen that for immediate utility for something like a Sleep Dart and an Ana or a Suzu from a Kiriko.
Yeah, I mean, it was a time where, just Bio Grenade was so powerful because of how healing-oriented the meta was that you would see, the Echo copy the Ana, and obviously you copy that hero right where you were when you pop that. So you maintain maximum altitude, and you have, a really nice angle to throw a Bio Grenade in there and basically hit multiple people, even over shields. That's less valuable now, obviously, that sort of sheer weight of healing, especially because of the way that the DPS passive has sort of made it a little bit harder just to overload your team with heals and keep them basically untouchable. So I like the idea, Rose, of, getting a duplicate tank, especially if it's a powerful space-taking tank, obviously an extra Orisa with that whole set of cooldowns can be very powerful. Winston as well, given that you're building up a Primal Rage at a much faster rate. That might actually be something we see a little bit more here. But again, the Ana pick, the Ana duplicate, still on the table. I would say that Maimon has less support here. Like in the past, we've seen the Mercy really pair up with the Echo. Now, you've got to be a little bit more self-sufficient. And you also got to make sure that you maintain that line of sight to your Kiriko.
Yeah, the Kiriko is going to be the biggest source of healing here for the Echo in that composition, and FMCL are in fact going to run the Echo alongside a Winston from Aerial. So, you know, while we might have seen a lot of Orisa being played, something that I don't think that we've gotten a chance to see enough of is going to be this Winston dive variant from a lot of our teams. Maybe the Diva, if we're looking at somebody like Hawk being able to play that dive, but at the end of the day, these Winston dive comps are still one of the most high skill ceiling and also just kind of team gap creating comps that we can actually see in OWCS.
Yeah, it's very like exposing, for better or for worse, I think, because defending with this Winston requires you to take some risks and actually play out of those safe positions. And you've got to make really informed decisions about where you engage. Mamone could use a mercy right now. Instead, he'll just make sure he basks in the glow of the Suzu as that's thrown at the ground. Scissors picked off already here, so that burst damage now off the table for students of the game, and the focusing beam will be enough to sever Cal from the rest of existence. Oh, okay, my mate. Sheesh.
All right, not coming into this match cold at all, I see. Feels really good to see Mimon back on this hero, and if you got a chance to catch any of the co-streams, we did get a chance to see Mimon play the Echo versus their match versus Timeless Nightmare on day 1 of groups. It was just so explosive. Something that's Mimon really excels at with this hero is being able to combo the sticky bombs onto really mobile targets. Maybe it's the Tracer of all things that you're going to be able to land that on, also tiny hitbox by the way, but also being able to just delete these tanks with that focusing beam. The combos are so good from Mimon.
Cal having to really just slam healing in here. That DPS passive is hitting a little different. Cal eventually brought down by the pulse bomb, and it probably feels pretty tough, bros, to be piloting this Brig against the team that has that Echo. You just can't interact with her most of the time. Yeah, you can space out that Winston a little bit more, right? You can, you know, throw a whip shot in and make it harder for them to engage, but they're not going to full engage on you anyway. Even Ana, they're going to play from inside the bubble most of the time anyway. So I definitely want to see like how Racket sort of derives value from this pick.
I agree with you. I think one of the things that the Brig can provide in this composition is just a little bit extra help to something like the Tracer versus Tracer matchup. And so you'd hope that Scissors will be able to win those 1v1s.
Beautiful time from Cal, able to dispense that nano boost, and PGE makes it impossible to miss the shot by filling his screen with an Organ of Zera. Now, I don't think you want to be primaling into this Cassidy anymore. PGE switching off the Echo in favor of the Gunslinger here to try and win that battle. It looks like it's paid off. Eventually they'll fall. Lep's able to deal with the Cassidy. Aerial here is trying to buy a little bit more time now as Scissor steps up and is forced to recall. They are close to a pulse bomb though, but opportunities to make use of that seem to be lacking right now. At the very least, FMCL able to force the attackers back here, the students of the game. I know Slackers, they waste very little time in getting back into the fray, and it's going to be a Tracer duplicate here, but that IMAX shield gives Mimon pause for thought. Don't want to be on the receiving end of a stun if they can help it. And Aerial had their rear end hanging out the back of that bubble, and that was enough for Infected and Co to fire the extra damage. Mimon at least gets those cooldowns refreshed as they come out of duplicate. No great target to employ them on. Students of the game, they've got that cart moving.
It was a little slow to start, but students of the game, they played that so smart, recognizing that they could use a couple of their resources to, at the very least, be able to push FMCL back away from that closer choke point, and then go in with the rally. So we were asking, where can Rack Attack actually find value from the Brigitte? And not only was it in the Tracer versus Tracer, but the rally to actually have point presence, or increase point presence on that first point. Super nice. Rack Attack now, though, is going to go over to the Lucio, and so I think the mobility is even better to have here on the Streets phase.
This feels a lot better. Absolutely. Again, you can't really access those high ground positions, and you're going to need to at some point here. Nice pulse on Infected. Another good connection from Zera. And then Zera says, you know what? I'm done. It's like scoring a touchdown and running out of the stadium. Peace. I'm leaving the server. Figure it out yourselves now, nerds.
Okay, hopefully it's not another play from phone hotspot situation. That's actually wild, by the way.
I mean, yeah, is it even that bad? I mean, it depends. Are you tethering your phone, or are you literally using the wireless hotspot? Because that's a whole nother story. That's like, that's rough. I think the NA ping would be like bouncing to like one. Really? Ooh, yeah, that's tough. That's tough. Hey, at least it's a wireless card, though. You know what I mean?
True.
It's a wireless card.
True.
Because most people hardwire their PCs don't even think about that anymore. This guy, thinking ahead. Love to see that. As they're obviously taking a break. Sometimes, you know, you just blow your cooldowns and you can start to feel yourself feeling a bit faint. So we'll get them back in just a moment. But there's a lot to catch up on here because we see like both teams with their Winston composition, and the Winston dive comp is probably not, you know, going to last forever on defense unless there's like a chasmous gap between the teams in skill level. But I feel like FMCL do pretty well to shave as much time off the clock as they do. And we have a Cassidy switch with that brig of rack attack. So they're trying to play more defensively, Rose, but finally they're able to sort of bring this Echo comp down and get onto the point and then switch off to Lucio.
Yeah, I still think that the Echo is going to be something Maimon can rely upon, at the very least in the Streets phase. It does remain to be seen whether or not he's going to feel comfortable enough with that pick when the third point gets a little bit more enclosed. But we've seen it before from Maimon. He's not afraid to play with some of those more vertical limitations, if you will.
When everybody in FMCL, save the Tracer, I guess, can play from the top of these buildings and then just transition between high and low kind of comfortably. That gives them a lot of flexibility and that ability to come from some unexpected angles here, whereas PGE just has to kind of hope that they show themselves to the Cassidy and make it an easy knockout. Shields, Maimon's worst enemy. They go very, very low here as the Primal Rage comes in from Aerial. They definitely need to create a little bit more spacing here, but right now they're just holding the corner, and that gives space to PGE now. He gets on top of that building. Nice little mag grenade was actually enough to get the finish on Renko. And Scissors didn't have to do too much there. Just watch everything unfold. Now students of the game have this high ground. They're pushing FMCL back into their spawn.
All right, well, that's going to be a bunch of space created here for FMCL. They got to come back into this one at some point, but I think when you see Infected try to go up to the spawn doors with that Primal Rage ready, it's going to be a little tough.
PGE now, defensive Deadeye being thrown out. Oh, okay. Aerial just exposes himself to that skull for a second too long. Sound Barrier now comes out for FMCL, but it's not quick enough to save Aerial's life. Still, PGE is going to be traded out. A duplicate of the Tracer now. Maimon going to be pretty hard to pin down on the cart for the time being, and they've actually been able to build a pulse. Really hard to find a connection here. So many nimble targets to choose from. Eventually, that one goes by the wayside. Maimon does see a very low health Kiriko, tries to go to work with a focusing beam, but Lep is quicker. And the Boop gets the elimination.
Right in the nick of time, FMCL set themselves up for so much success. They had to go back into that one with several ultimates, but the fact that they were able to stop the cart where it is now means that students of the game have to go through so much open territory to finally get back there to push that cart over the line. And they're running out of time. 30 seconds left is not a whole lot to work with, but the one thing that students of the game does have is the sound barrier, which can be hugely influential in this final moment to get that cart over.
Zero either has to strike before that comes down or wait it out to get a real big elimination with this pulse bomb. Okay, they realize they can't go upstairs anymore. They're going to be calling desperately for healing right now, and finally it comes. Maimon here playing out of line of sight of PGE, who really rules the roost from that little overpass. Infected comes up, so does the card. Scissors very, very low now as the Katina Rush gets thrown down. They're healed up, of course, by their recall. Now they're going to get the job done. Don't even need the pulse bomb to finish off Aerial here. And SOG find a burst of lethality just when it's most needed. They're able to get that second checkpoint and a 90-second extension.
It's still a lot of time to work with. The fact that they only need the Kitsune Rushes very well and they could hold on to this sound barrier means that they have bought themselves even more time throughout this third point. On the flip side of things, we do see that FMCL, they are going to have basically a full slate of ultimates for this next fight. They don't want to have this prolonged too much. So as soon as the game, they gotta get these picks fast and swiftly. PGE gonna be a big part of that.
I get a lot of consistent damage being dealt by the Cassidy from that position, but it's a little exposed, and that's exactly where the defenders choose to dive. Here's the Primal. Aerial's already forced them back towards their spawn. Now wants to send them to the grave. Good pressure on Cal, and Lep is there again. Lep's follow-ups have been immaculate. Scissors picked off there by a right click, and Aerial says, I've done my job here.
Go back to get the defense, play a little bit around this high ground. And if you're on this bridge, you can pretty comfortably contest this cart, but here's where we get into the last fight for this round. Soon in this game, they've got 4 ultimates up against FMCL's 4, but here's the duplicate first.
No beat for Scissors. They might have been in a recall animation at the time. Sarah a little bit preemptive with the pulse bomb. Can't find the elimination, even though the stick was good. Scissors, though, does him one better. Aerial's going to fall. PGE now opts to drop to the low ground. There's a duplicate of Winston primarily in his face, but eventually the facade drops to reveal a very fragile-looking Echo out there in the open. Now PGE to the front lines. Scissors already paving the way for the rest of students of the game. 90 seconds they came into this stage with, and looking very, very good to finish the map now. Ariel suffering, has to try and find a way to get in. Opts to throw a bubble midway through instead on the carpet. PGE's there with the damage, and 3 other players from Students of the Game are involved. Man Grenade holds Infected at bay, but not nearly enough to keep that primal rage tampered. And it will be Students of the Game getting the map done. No time to spare, but considering how dicey it was looking there at second, they'll be pleased enough.
It's good enough too because that's still a win condition on the board. If they can just hold FMCL back, or even, well, yeah, you know, either you tie or you go into more rounds or you just win it outright. I think Students of the Game are feeling pretty good about that one.
I like the Brig potentially here on defense. Obviously, really hard to assail the high ground.
I think it's better.
And you mentioned that, like, the repair packs just being handed out to one of your flankers means that they can really spend much more time out in the open or wrapping around and being quite aggressive. So we like it from Rack Attack. We know it's a pick we've seen from him on multiple times. Cal, they are nasty on the honor. So quite happy to see this dart. Rack, really?
Listen, I would have.
I'm pretty sure he has played that in our. I believe there was a certain day.
He has played Lifeweaver.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a good day, or a fun day, or a bad day, but there was a Lifeweaver. That's
going to depend on who you ask, I think. But yeah, look, obviously we know Lifeweaver has some great output, really good numbers. The utility also is potentially conditionally good, but that lack of mobility is often a problem. Baptiste, you know, can get exploited, and he has much better vertical mobility than the Lifeweaver, and even he struggles sometimes under that kind of pressure, so let's not mess around. Let's listen into FMCL now as they try and match this full map completion from Students of the Game.
Give me time.
I could try.
I'm gonna shoot Chase or Monkey. I'm going to chase it right side 3, 2, 1. They're giving back Echo, by the way. Echo low.
Okay, Monkey's on corner point. I'm just gonna shoot him. Shoot him, Monkey. Shooting Monkey.
Yeah, I'm not taking damage.
On a bomb right.
Can you give me time? I can go backline soon.
Yeah,
I'm ready. You guys ready?
Yeah, ready.
3, 2, 1. I'm in.
Shoot him, Monkey. Shoot him, Monkey.
Echo can die. Echo on top. Oh, I'm...
Trailer.
What the fuck?
Echo, please.
Echo on. I need to get
Get.
We're pushing. Okay. Monkey right side is looking.
You can see how hard it is to coordinate these dives, especially against a highly mobile defensive setup. I think that was Lep there, pretty frustrated about roundly getting picked up by Infected.
It was really tough there too because after you lose that Lucio, it's going to be way harder to actually match that same type of mobility. So yeah, you got to back up and try again, but it's time to try to take this Echo out.
It's awkward, I think, for Cal to get a sideline on PGE. They're playing from inside this cafe, whereas the Echo is outside that point, up in the air. Desperately, Cal's trying to find the angle. Eventually, PGE has to go and find a health pack of their own, and they get jumped on by Mumode and Zero. FMCL really trying to exploit here Echo's difficulties with getting support at times like that. The Cal's gone down. Nice little dive here from Ariel, but it's going to be traded out. It's Mumode this time to fall. Infected is low, very low. They are able to complete the kill, though, with the help of Scissors. With no Kiriko here, it looks a little dicey for FMCL. They get themselves a tick, and now they're going to go with the Primal Rage now. Ariel really needs to space this out so that there can be a point cap behind them. But no one's actually on the point here. And Ariel gives up all that health for not much capture progress whatsoever.
That's still a lot of space and time for the rest of the reinforcements of FMCL to come back. And you also, the Tracer used a ton of huge skills.
That's big from Mimone. Just a straight up spam of those cooldowns to bring PGE to heal. Mimone completely ignoring the stun here because they know they have a second life should they require it. There's the sticky bombs and they back away from Mimone. And no one's walking into this. Not on their best day. They're going to try and challenge the amount of spam coming through that choke. Cal low, another sticky bomb deployment now brings Rack Attack within inches of losing his life. And that's the point capped midway through the fighting.
Well, that card's already going to go ahead and get the ball rolling, but FMCL, they're going to feel nicely about just being able to do that with very few ultimates. You already have the sound barrier as well, which is a huge advantage to have versus the Students of the Game composition because they're running on a Brig. They're also running a very exploitable backline. Because you don't have the Lucio, it's much more difficult for this Ana and the Brig to get away from where they would like to be set up. You know, the flip side of that is that the Brig shield is really nice to be able to not only shield Cal, but also PGE switching over to the Cassidy.
Oh. That was a straight solo kill from Scissors. They were the only one flanking there. and my mode gets just absolutely ruined. That takes so much pressure off the defenders here, students of the game, who basically just sit the Cassidy, Ana, and Brig all together. So that's a pretty scary prospect to try and dive. And you can see FMCL taking their time, but that time, that window is what Scissors sort of exploited to take the Echo out of the fight.
Yeah, so also the armor packs. Thank you, Brig.
Pretty good, pretty good. Bubble here, that's a problem for PGE. Spam the hammer here, force Aerial back, but now they come back in with the Primal Rage, and there is a classic Cal sleep. Aerial here has a brief date with the Sandman, and that looked like a whip shot that keeps him off that high ground. Even in Primal, Aerial is struggling to stick to a target. Infected's very, very healthy here. The attackers are expending some big resources, but they haven't gone for the big ults right now. They're still holding on to them. They're going to have to as Renko is forced into a savings plan on that Kitsune rush.
That was a super nice sleep dart there from Cal 2. Actually forces the Tracer to use the recall, so now
that's so good.
So vulnerable.
That's so good.
You could not get away from that Bionade and the infected cleave combo. So it was super, super well done. And this is, the kind of the reemergence of that issue of, yes, this backline of Cal, Rack Attack on the Ana and Brig is very mobile, but how do you actually jump them?
I don't know. Now I really don't know. Because you have that rally up. Look at this. Rack Attack. Okay, Nanobu's over to PGE. Okay, that's quite the gambit. Deadeye here that's going to charge up quicker. PGE had an easy kill on my Moan there, but ignores that skull in favor of trying to get more damage on Aerial. Cal eventually falls. That backline finally showed to have its flaws, but the crackback is far more impressive from students of the game. They had to spend both support ults to do so, but hey, so did FMCL.
Those are really expensive ultimates to have too. I think when you look at pound for pound what both these comps are providing, you're like, okay, well, the Rally is a super great defensive ultimate, but like the Sound Barrier is so flexible in that nature. Now that's off the board, you aren't really going to be able to use it for this next engagement, and when the card is stopped where it is, you would love to just have that extra bit of sustain and firepower in order to push this cart forward. So now you're relying on this duplicate from Maimon to really open things up. And so I guess that's where you're happy that students of the game don't have a sound barrier.
Oh, nice shot there. Not bad at all from Maimon. Got to be knocked out of their dupe pretty darn quickly here. And opts for the Ana, right? That sort of aerial Bionade. Everyone on students of the game was split up there. I think Maimon was hoping to hit that backline trio of the two supports in Cassidy, but that wasn't to be. Good bubble there from Infected. Buys enough space here for PGE to get rid of Aerial. The counter-tank play, the counter-dive play from students of the game has been above reproach so far. Maimon falling once more. PGE, it's been great over both maps. Honestly, gapping Seeker, on Nepal. And here looking absolutely fabulous when it comes to dealing with that aerial threat of Maimon, who's been quiet on the second phase. And Rose, there's only 10 seconds left.
Someone's gonna have to come in and touch. You really hope that it would be Aerial being able to have that primal rage, but it's gonna be an uphill battle for FMCL to climb.
Aerial with primal at the very least. Cal clutching onto that sleep dart now, as it is the silver bullet when dealing with the angry primate. They do take note, of course, of Winston going off to the left-hand side, and here's the primal. Nanobu's going to be given over into PGE once more. This Cassidy is looking electric. Decent amount of damage, but the sound barrier is going to be there. No, Deadeye, Maimon can't get away. He doesn't have the mobility. He already used his flight cooldown to get into the fight. Okay, a posthumous mag grenade there thrown in the direction of left, but no one's there to follow up on that immobility of the Lucio. That's the stun used up by Rack Attack, simply thrown at Renko after the Kitsune Rush came down. But it's all about the healing emanating from the Brig. As Rack Attack leads the charge here, the defenders try and re-establish themselves once more. Infected as primal, that is big, and it could be the difference maker indeed. Here it comes, Aerial already fallen, so there's a huge tank disparity, and Infected is making it look even worse. Students of the game, they are a cut above here on Paraiso.
This is why Rack Attack has always had the plot armor. Whenever he was playing in the Overwatch League, no matter how the scoreline was going, everybody just wanted to see Rack Attack get that win. Because Rack Attack is such an impressive Brig. Honestly, don't think it really matters what he's playing, but the Brig just looks so standout, and you gotta protect your Brigida.
You know, it's funny, because we have this tension on both sides. On one hand, you have Rack Attack, who you always want to win. On the other side, you have Renko, who you always want to see smile.
Yeah.
Who do you go for? Like, we are locked in a state
it's
of
so hard.
indecision here. It's absolutely brutal. But while we figure that out, while we decide which way we're leaning, let's listen in. Students of the game finding their second consecutive map win. Let's get some comms.
Korean one. I'm one. Fucking me. I'm
They're blind. I'll look for bash. 2, 1. Bashing monkey.
Monkey.
I'm looting.
Pushing. Monkey one, guys. Stay monkey.
Yeah. We're looting.
I'm back.
Walk now.
Lucio.
You don't think
Something that hits a little bit better about saying Lucio over and over again as Lulu than
Look.
monkey.
This is great. I mean, they've taken a 3-syllable word and turned it into one. This is a huge step forward in like communication in the Overwatch world. I think this should be studied, honestly. The amount of
I think that wins a
efficiency.
Nobel Prize.
Honestly, like the amount of efficiency the students of the game have now achieved, the amount of extra lose they can fit in, it's a factor of 3. That is taking big strides forward and is furthering esports in Overwatch for everybody. Again, I mean, we saw the Echo Mirror come out to start with here. PGE struggled there at times, makes a switch over to Cassidy, and eventually off the brig comes Rack Attack into the second phase of the map. I mean, PGE is a nasty hit scan player. They have been really having an outsized impact, I feel like, on every other fight. So much so that, like, it's the nano is just being given to them without question. Unilaterally, Cal is just sending that over to the Cassidy because they trust that PGE will get the job done, and they have. It's been fantastic showing.
Yeah, who cares about the high noon? What really matters is that consistent damage output that this Cassidy has been providing. Not only has it just been like either great body shots onto a big hitbox like the Winston, or you're taking out these tiny little targets like Sarah's Tracer. I think it feels really nice to know that you can mark down some of those more slippery units, and yeah, it's full trust, and that's what you expect and want to have out of a team that's going to be running a dive-centric comp, or the Orisa that we've seen, and everybody's been saying needs very high levels of coordination.
Yes, absolutely. And we've seen teams that like have a slightly weaker Orisa setup. I'm looking at you guys, M80, and how that can sort of manifest, right? So I'm going to say Infected, nasty. They are super nasty. This is what like that grind down in Tier 2 gets you. Obviously, it was a huge factor on that Trick Room roster that even made it into the Pro-Ams and shocked, an Overwatch League team. I won't say too much more, but yeah, they had a great showing. And I mean, Mirror, your boy Mirror, sat on the bench. Just sat on the bench. Because Infected here is really commanding a lot of attention, a lot of respect. And students of the game, well-deserved here to go up 2-0 in the series. And the healing data is pretty huge. I do think that having Anana and Brig sort of over the Kiriko Lucio means that in those longer fights you'll sort of exceed overall healing output, especially because Lucio's healing spikes are really tied to the turn it up, which is again often used to get a faster speed boost. But I mean, the Brig Ana setup really, really good against the dive, and I just don't think we saw FMCL adapt that well.
How? You run into the shield bash, the whip shot, a sleep, a mag grenade. As the Winston, you're just having an awful time. Yeah. And even still, as the Echo, there's just
throw that out of the
yeah, something like that, and then maybe a drummer boy in there. Actually, that could be Lucio, technically. But Seeker. Seeker's going to be coming into the roster now to take Maimun's spot, and this speaks to me that we will not see any more Echo on Colosseo, but we do require that hit scan to be able to have those long-range sightlines.
Yeah, we're headed back to Sojourn City here for Seeker. And there's like an argument to be made for Cassidy, but the neutral part of this map, the sightline, is really too long, unless you're expecting to get dove and you're trying to maybe counter that, which has been a composition that SOG have made look really good on maps where you are going to get dove, but here you expect more of the brawl or even sort of poke-centric setups here. It's not uncommon to even see the Sigma brawl onto this map. I feel like tank players get to express a little bit more of their preference here, but both teams want to go for that Orisa setup, so we're going to be pretty closely scrutinizing the coordination of those comps, because if we're in a mirror, those little things, the 1%ers, are going to make a huge difference.
Well, when we saw this matchup before on Nepal, it was students of the game that were able to get the upper hand over the Orisa comp from FMCL. So I would have to expect that PGE in this roster is warm, showed us some great looks on the Cassidy, is able to provide that same type of consistent damage on the Sojourn, and just really play around the team. I would give this upper hand to students of the game right off the bat.
All right, Seeker, reminding everybody why he was considered by many to
Never
be...
mind.
Yeah, one of the best hit scans in North America, if not the best. There's a title to defend, even if it's hypothetical. A great opening here, and that gives FMCL a pretty decent lead to start the game with. There's always the question of how effectively they can assail that high ground, and some of that will come down to Zera. But for now, you're off to a good start. This is what you need to see, especially when you're trailing, Rose, in this series.
The students of the game can play around this corner, which is a bit more defensively favored than what FMCL are going to have to deal with. They can play around this barrier, though, which gives them a lot of cover. Same with the corridors around here, but we're sort of back to square one. And the fighting over this midpoint, looking to see who can actually get the first big opening pick that a team can capitalize on.
Yeah. And then the Tracers probably just trade damage. Like, you won't see a full commit there unless there's like a random, like maybe like a Kiriko headshot or something similar. Zera backing away here a little bit lower. Remember, the healing doesn't come instantaneously from the Lucio, so Scissors wins that out for now. And yeah, like we saw in that first fight, much is predicated on these railguns coming across. Otherwise, FMCL don't have any incentive to get over-aggressive because they have a lead already. The onus, even though it's such a small difference in score, the onus falls on SOG to make a play.
It does. PGE is so low, that's going to be the go signal.
That was big. And that was the Javelin, I think, that hit PGE. So it wasn't even Seeker having to go nuts there. The rest of the team, the follow-up was good for the Kunai, but Seeker maybe overextends a little bit here. FMCL have invaded into a close quarters engagement against students of the game. It's back and forth stuff, though. Pulse bomb thrown. Rack Attack able to avoid it, but Aerial forces him away with the Javelin spin. And FMCL get to reassert themselves after finding that key first pick.
Right, Rack Attack's able to get away as well. And also with a sound barrier at that. So all throughout that action, building that up alongside basically a full slate of ultimates here for students of the game. But expect these Kitsune Rush to both go down.
That's a
Maybe
nice disruptor shot. I don't know how, I mean, how did Zera fall so that's pretty wild because PGE was half HP to a disruptor shot from Seeker, who just got hit by a Javelin. They are able to recover though. This is students of the game being able to make up some of that initial 20 meters that they had ceded to their opponents. Seeker here looking for a way to discharge this rail. Obviously, that overclock is in play, but it's not a target-rich environment at all. That expires now. PGE, though, finds himself in a pretty overextended position, so great sound barrier from Rack to try and protect them. Scissors, though, falls instead. PGE at least has a railgun to rely on here, but the sidelines are a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit close quarters inside that side room. So students of the game take a sidebar here. They actually got the lead off that push, so they're happy enough to give it up. Seeker, though, without ultimate, finds a massive headshot. They might lose it straight away.
This is going to be an even bigger fight to win as well, just because of how much jockeying over this midpoint these two teams have done. So with that clean sweep, FMCL is going to finally get some meaningful progress down onto this push bot. And that's going to feel so good. FMCL did have to use a sound barrier there, and so, you know, they still have a lot to work with, but I'm really looking at students of the game just now having to play on the back foot, while FMCL are going to be making a bit more progress.
These Seeker rails have been big, very impactful on this map. Kind of making us forget how dominant PGE has been thus far. Good stick. It's going to be a Suzu that comes out straight away. Of course, dutiful as ever. Cal keeps the Sojourn in the game. And now everyone's forced to rush in, or rather FMCL opt to do that. But the Kitsune rushes are matched, and no one's watching PGE on an off angle who hits an insta-rail.
Wow, amazing. It's been so back and forth. I mean, Mitch, we're only 4 minutes into this map, and we've barely gone 30 meters on either side.
Yeah, this is not much of a tour at all. I am not doing any sightseeing. I want my money back.
Well, at least the Colosseo is pretty big.
Yeah, I've been looking at it. I've been looking at it for like 10 minutes. Oh, okay. Interesting. Aerial pops that pretty early. And Infected holds their Terror Surge a little bit longer. Renko doesn't have the mobility to get out of it. They might have piled in fact, with a swift step to try and help Aerial out. This has gone horribly wrong here for FMCL. After they tried to start the fight, Aerial cancels that Terror Surge so early. Not sure why, maybe realizing that they weren't on the foot that they thought they were. So students of the game can continue to extend this lead, and that checkpoint will be hard for Cal to find here. I think they'll be happy enough just getting the bot to the precipice of it. See ya.
Yeah. Oh, that was super nice. But they still get to play on this defensive position under the point.
Now grouped up in the choke, but Scissors is able to make their way through already. They're playing around the bot. Cal has to Suzu themselves there. The Seeker with the overclock, again, doesn't have the best targets lined up, and the sound barriers get used by both FMCL with a later one, and that might give Seeker the window to get rid of Infected. Now we have an Orisa diff as Aerial is the only one standing. Zera with a pulse, though, might not need to deal with PGE, and Seeker again gets there. This time, no flashy hit scan aim, just a slap to the back of the head to put FMCL back in the driver's seat for now.
They go back to this midpoint, but by the time that they're able to actually bring another fight, as soon as the game, we're gonna have that Kitsune rush. Renko as well, so we could expect to see these rushes layered on top of each other. But I'm really looking here at Zera being able to make a big difference with this Pulse Bomb, or even a Seeker just straight up having a Sojourn diff moment and getting a big opening pick with a Railgun charge.
It's funny how so much of this map really does boil down to that at times, but even a good Javelin hit that like holds someone immobile long enough for a Rail or a Kunai to hit them has been pretty important in a couple of fights as well. Ooh, good switch step up to the high ground. PGE was really feeling the pressure there, and good Suzu timing. I think Scissors thought they had a kill there. Renko just throws the flower down and gets that invulnerability window. Here it is again. FMCL now might have a chance at a checkpoint of their own. Students of the game, remember, they didn't quite get there themselves. They just pulled back as they left Cal, I think, shepherding the bot forward and then lost the next fight. This is going to be another close one.
This is very, very close. And I think that students of the game would be able to get back before this checkpoint gets activated. But it's going to be off the back of a big amp it up here from Rack Attack to speed them toward the point.
Okay, straight away Infected starts to fight off Terror Surge. This is awkward. Who's going to break first? Infected backs up and the Sound Barrier comes out to cover up the damage that was done from the Orisa ultimates. Ooh, here it is. PGE once more. Finds left, picks them off after they got rid of Cal. Renko's low, and yet that doesn't even need to be a fully charged Rail to secure the kill, but they weren't looking at Zera, who was nipping at their heels the entire time. Infected's in trouble. They have the Fortify, though. That's enough to give them enough lifespan to run down Aerial. Students of the game just managed to get back in control, and they still have that slim lead.
They still have the slim lead, and at this point, too, one more team fight will actually get them the checkpoint. But at this point, too, like 2.5 minutes left, I take the lead, even if it is just a couple of meters. They don't have a whole lot to work with, though, so keeping it's going to be a little bit tough, but the best thing that they can do right now is just play from a position where they're not going to give Seeker too much territory with this overclock, because they will have tracking ultimates. They know that this overclock is ready to go.
PGE is a Javelin there. Dangerous, always dangerous. There's a window, of course, to just to blow up the player hit by that. Infected throws one in, probably just more for poke than anything else right now. And FMCL, for now, seems satisfied with getting back to the neutral zone of the map. Again, PGE cops a hit. You can see that blue glow indicates the rail is charged. That's when you need to respect the Sojourn. Seeker's still holding on this because he knows that SOG could just disengage here into the side room, but that might set things up for Aerial to push into them here and give FMCL the chance to take like a brawl-based fight. Yeah, here's Kitsune Rush now. Both Javelin spins come out. Okay, immediately, Scissors beeline towards Seeker. He's able to slide back away from the Pulse Bomb, though, and now he's going to be caught inside the Terror Surge without a slide available. Scissors finds two. Infected again with a massive Orisa ultimate. And Seeker's got no choice but to try and make the play, get into the backline. But he was tracked the entire way. Students of the game now getting close to a minute left in the round. They're poised to extend that lead into this checkpoint.
That fight took 1.5 minutes. And that was so much time that FMCL would have loved to have in order to make a comeback. But this bot is going to reach this checkpoint if they're not careful. Zera's able to get there in the nick of time.
Yeah, nicely done. FMCL just keep a player on the bot. They take a lot of damage to do this, though. Have a look at these health bars. Aerial about to lose that armor and take far more damage than otherwise would. I like the sneak of the bot away here. This is going to force SOG to drop to the low ground, which might be what FMCL want. But Aerial's still under pressure. Great sound barrier from Rack Attack. They realize that Infected was floundering there. PGE has space to work this, and Aerial goes for a Terror Surge that doesn't get anything. It's another great pulse, though. Zera cleans up PGE this time, and there's no Sojourns left on the field. SOG lost Cal early, and they didn't have the healing to keep the rest of this roster up. It was Rack Attack to fall next. And FMCL have one last chance. They don't have to go too much further here to even or get into the lead. But this fight has to go off without any hitches.
At least they have the Kitsune Rush. Renko can lay that down as soon as students of the game pop their heads out. And that's going to be tough to be able to deal with. But yes, it's going to be the Cassidy change here for PGE. Maybe that magnetic grenade can be enough to hinder somebody and make them a bit more vulnerable for Scissors to land this pulse bomb.
Oh my goodness, they didn't see Scissors, but they opt to stay their hand for now. some discipline to hold on to the pulse, but they need to be alive to make use of it later. The Cassidy switch here as PGE knows that neither team can afford to play at long range anymore. Terra Surge blocked up. I think Lev's actually able to get on the other side of the bot to break line of sight and avoid any damage. Infected needs to hang around here. Renko's a good start for the defenders, but Ariel comes in hot and PGE is down. The Cassidy had to get too close to the sun, apparently. Scissors absolutely popping off here. This Tracer play has been something else from both sides, but in the end, SOG are able to prevail. To think at the start of this series that it will be a straight 3-0. Students of the game taking 0 prisoners here on their way out of this group.
That map was a little bit closer than I think maybe some people would have expected, but hey, students of the game, I think they're beating the allegations here, Mitch. I think this is a team that people can still depend on to be at the top of the NA leaderboards. They have earned their ticket into the second stage main event, and they get a chance to prove themselves again. And they look great right now, and I think especially if they're able to move into a meta that they get to explore even more of the options that are on their team, they're going to be really set up for success.
Indeed, and definitely not washed, so that has been answered.
Repeat those allegations, that's true.
Those allegations do be gone. I was honestly very, very impressed. I mean, for players like PGE, just take it to Seeker and co. In the way he did, he played lights out. I was very impressed with PG, especially Scissor as well. I think just the entire team really, really showed up. So if we're looking at more highlights from the match we just got to witness, I'm sure both of them will be popping off. And they really threw FMCL off of their game there.
Like, I think being able to lean on having a stronger Orisa comp ostensibly is pretty huge, right? When all else fails, you can revert to that and take the mirror and be confident that you can win it out. This first map was just a masterclass in denying Cassidy's sightlines from him. And then, like, the switch to Sombra at the end, knowing there'd be a Doomfist in play from PGE was really heads up. And it didn't only shut the Doom down, it kind of ran wild itself. And then, on Paraiso, I feel like the Ana Brig combo against the dive was a huge difference maker.
It really was. I mean, we talked about the setup that you can have as a defensive composition. Cal, Rack Attack, and PGE all sat stacked on top of each other, so that there was very little room for this dive to get access to that backline. And if you're not able to actually trade backline for backline with these dive comps, then your dive just isn't going to be winning those fights 9 times out of 10. You love to be able to see that level of coordination from this team showing up not only on the Orisa but the Winston, but then again going back to the Orisa for this map of Colosseo. I feel like just being able to be a DPS that can go toe-to-toe with Seeker is incredibly impressive.
Yeah, it's nice to be reminded that this sort of the North American hit scan talent pool still has some depth to it, right? I think that, you know, in the past they've been overshadowed by sort of foreign players and also, you know, like South Korean players competing in North America. Seeker was someone who stood at the top of the pack, but PGE, with a very well-deserved player of the match here, has also staked their claim to that title. Really strong showing. I think in general, like, the Orisa comp for students of the game is very, very tight. They've managed to make that look very good here. But so much on Colosseo, Zoe, is about, can the Sojourn like hit a rail, or can you follow up on a javelin? You have like a very, very, very small window of immobility that you know, that target of the javelin gets hit by. So you've got to be quick and you've got to be sharp.
And they certainly were just that. Also, they really came in with a proper game plan through every single map they played. Like, they never seemed to lose their stride there. So, did their homework. I don't feel like they've truly been tested here. So, I'm very interested to see how it's going to look like for them in the main event. Because, quite frankly, they just 3-0'd everything in their group. Arguably, you could say that Group D was not the hardest group to be in. Just gonna make that statement.
I think you're right.
I want to say with confidence, it's not it wasn't the hardest group.
It's like a little transitive to say this, but, you know, FMCL did sort of kind of flatten Citrus Nation on the way through Swiss, whereas students of the game lost that game. You know, so coming into this, you know, using that and just a couple of other metrics to sort of gauge their success, like how I was feeling on that certain day, for example, that's something I'll lean on. You know, I did not expect it to be kind of as wide open as it ended up being. And there were some competitive moments, competitive rounds, maybe even competitive maps, but overall, like, students of the game were way more switched on today. They looked a lot hungrier, and, I mean, it comes out in a 3-0, so you really can't, you know, take anything away from this team. They look ready to do better than just getting a one-map off Timeless in the lower bracket of the main event this time around.
Let's actually listen into the winning moments of students of the game here at the very end of the last match.
I can look for big, Lucio.
5 point.
Rest.
Try one on mini. No read.
Rest.
Kill Rissa now. Go so top. I'm going. Trade. No read.
Was that a ya or a yeehaw there at the end? I'm not
Ask this
entirely
guy.
sure.
I don't know.
He comes infected to joining us now for an interview. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for casting and just hosting. This has been an awesome tournament to play in.
Oh, man, I mean, plays like what we just got to see from you and your team, they make it so very enjoyable for us. So we love our job thanks to you. Let's walk us through the game here a little bit. I mean, you looked locked in. You seem to have a very clear idea of how to approach each and every single map. How much time did you guys actually spend prepping for the group stages and for the teams in your group particularly?
I would say we had this like whole week or just like all the time after Swiss just to prep. And to be honest, like in our practice, it didn't really feel great. Like playing as a team, we definitely had some like downsides, but like this win definitely gave me and I'm pretty sure our whole team a lot of confidence going forward.
You're obviously, you've got a lot of experience in that tank role, and we saw you obviously multiple times, even on like the biggest of stages last year with Trick Room. But you're on a team obviously that has had a veteran like Mira sort of join in, and obviously now as a sort of secondary tank player is another option there. Do you sort of feel pressure from that? Do you feel like you're able to sort of kind of access Mira's brain and sort of talk a little bit about the game? Is there any sort of cross-pollination going on there? Do you feel pressure to sort of maintain your role, obviously, with a real veteran player sort of in this roster as well?
I mean, I wouldn't say I feel pressured. I just feel like more I don't know, I'm just happy he's on the team because I'm just able to talk to him because he is a really smart and great player. It's always nice to have just like like somebody who understands your role and is also really smart. But I always feel confident playing.
Yeah, you look at for sure, especially as a Rissamir is very, very clean, man. Nicely done.
Yeah, Chivas looked so good this stage. I'm wondering if you could give us a bit of insight from yourself of where do you feel like students of the game really fall into the power of the North America region? Would you guys rate yourself top 4, top 8? Your thoughts?
I still think we could definitely make top 3, maybe even top 2 for sure, if we just keep playing how we normally play. I think a lot of teams like Timeless and like Luminosity are also really good, but they're definitely have some weaknesses and are very beatable. So you can see students of the game getting up there if we keep playing good.
We're excited and hope to see that, of course. And now one last question before we let you go. The Orisa comp, as we just said already, like that looked really, really clean. Now heading into the main event, which you guys just qualified for, you get to sit back a little bit, watch everyone else figure out the new patch. Word on the street is that we might see some ball play and whatnot. Are you worried, excited? How are we feeling about the upcoming patch?
I'm very excited because I think my ball is my at least like my top 2. Yeah, this is my top 2 of my heroes, and like there's not a lot of players that are good at ball, so if it is ball meta, like students of the game will do good.
That's right. That's a promise. I take it as such. Thank you so much, Infected, for joining us. We can't wait to see you guys in the main event.
Thank you.